hello, my friends, and welcome to a few very rainy days here on our little country farm. I don't know if you're this way like me, but during this time of year, about this time, I start to get a little antsy and ready for spring. So today I am going to use this time to stay cozy on a rainy day, just get a few little things done in the home. I call this piddling around the house. So I hope you'll join me. Let's enjoy a cozy rainy day at home. My little Jack Riley here is now 1.5. I can't believe it. His birthday is in August. He is just growing so fast. I feel like yesterday I just had him. He was a little baby, and I was bringing him on here on YouTube to show him off to y'all. But he is walking. He's starting to talk here and there, and he is into everything. He's my little wild child who climbs on everything, jumps off of things, crawls up things, does flips everywhere, gets into everything, as you can see here. He had to go check out the rug that Mama vacuumed. I'm just doing a little bit of fluffing here in the kitchen. We are waiting on the rain. It hasn't hit just yet, but I wanted to get this kitchen fresh and clean. And y'all know, this little table in the center of my kitchen is quite ugly. It's not even that sturdy, but it's about the right size for this little kitchen. Our kitchen is only maybe 10 by 10, maybe a little bit bigger than that. It's not large by any means. And so I can't really fit much here. Now this spring I am hoping to get that little table outside and give it a good coat of paint. The bottom of it is painted black, and so I'm not going to strip the paint off that. So I may just paint it a nice color, maybe a soft yellow or green or blue, and then continue to cover the top with a tablecloth. I think it's really pretty, and I really enjoy putting out my vintage tablecloths on it. Now listen, apparently I was feeling very green on this day with the green outfit and the green cabbage and the green mixing bowl. Goodness gracious. But today we are gonna make some sauerkraut. I have been craving homemade sauerkraut. Now I don't like store-bought. My family does. I don't like it, but I love homemade sauerkraut made with thicker chunks of cabbage and left to get really sour. And so that's what we're going to do today. I feel this connection with sauerkraut because my entire family, for the most part, loves sauerkraut. And my mom tells stories of back at the farmhouse, which is where she grew up. They grew up on a family farm. Sadly, it's no longer in the family. But nonetheless, she grew up making sauerkraut at the farmhouse. And so she'll tell stories about it and all they had to do with that. But they would make it in these big antique crocks. And I actually have those crocks on my front porch. I've shown y'all that I plant in them all the time. They have cracks in them now, so I can't use them for anything else but decor. And so I have them. So that's kind of a fun tie there. But if you're wondering about the sauerkraut, it is so easy. You take a head of cabbage, a tablespoon of salt, massage them together until you have enough of the brine where the cabbage has sweat out the brine. You can even leave it to sit and kind of do it on its own. It'll just take a little bit longer, or you can massage it in the whole time to get more. Fill up a quart size jar. Usually a normal size cabbage will fill up 1 quart jar. And I press it down really good to make sure all the juices squeeze up into the rest of the jar, and then pour over the brine. I'm using my little glass weights to hold down all of the cabbage. You want it all submerged in the brine or else it will mold. Cover it lightly with a lid and then let it sit at room temperature. I just keep it on my counter here, testing it every few days to see if it's ready. Right now it's taken a couple of weeks because it's so cold. I have mentioned this before. My mom and I have a little blog that we run. It has recipes, it has Bible studies, it has thoughts and all kinds of stuff on it. And so I was taking some photos here for that. Here's just a little glimpse at the farmhouse. The siding is going up, and I am very excited. I'm getting really impatient, and we're still quite a ways away from being in it. But nonetheless, I'm getting very excited. I can picture what everything's going to look like, and I just can't wait. And I like to show little in-between stages here on these videos to look back on. Now, moving on for supper. And this is a favorite. We are very simple when it comes to food. Just on any normal given day, I'm not cooking lasagna or pot pie or fried chicken or chicken and dumplings or whatever, soups, anything like that. I am just making a meat, a vegetable, and a carb, usually. Sometimes, not always. And so this is a perfect example of one of those, and this is just going to be some fried potatoes. I baked my potatoes first. That's how my mom does it. That's what I'm doing. I don't always do it that way, but it makes it a lot faster come dinner time, and I could just pop these potatoes in when I had something else going in the oven. I am frying up some ground beef into burger patties, and I've just seasoned them with some seasoning salt. And then I have some collards, and I'm going to throw them in with some butter and cook them down. I like to do fun meals here and there, breakfast for supper or pot pie or lasagna or soups or chili or whatever. Sometimes. That's more of like a once a week or a twice a week kind of thing. We eat very simply for the most part though, and I love to have like a protein and a carb and then lots of sides. So those meals that are like pork chops or burger patties or baked chicken and like a rotisserie whole chicken, I make a baked version, and green beans or greens and carrots and corn and a slice of bread or a biscuit or cornbread or whatever, and fried potatoes and beans. A little bit of a lot of things. Those are my favorite meals. So I make that a lot. It's also my husband's favorite. He's not big on fried food. He is not big on fancy meals regularly. He just likes a simple meal like this. So this works really, really well for us for the most part. You'll see me make stuff like this a lot. And then occasionally make something a little fancier when we feel like having a fun meal. And then usually I will make some kind of treat once or twice a week. This just keeps eating at home really simple. And right now we are really having to focus in on that, which I will share more with you here in a bit. But we are really having to focus in on this and not have too many fancy meals right now or eating out or anything of the such. So this is what we're eating for the most part. And I must say, I'm not really missing out on much because this is my favorite thing. Now the storms have hit and we woke up to lots of rain. We were supposed to get several inches and there were flood warnings out and all kinds of stuff. And so we were indoors. Now it didn't rain all day, but it was pretty muddy out and still a little too cold to really get the kids out playing in any of the puddles or anything. So we are staying in, staying cozy, and making some cookies. Now, you will see I am using Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour, and here is why. I have shared with y'all that my parents eat a gluten-free diet. They are good about not adding gluten to things, but this whole time it wasn't so bad that they couldn't eat out or that it was a problem that I used flour, even if I baked them gluten-free things in my kitchen after. That wasn't a big deal. But recently, my mom has been diagnosed with celiac disease, which is an autoimmune situation rather than just a sensitivity. And we have found out she's had lots of damage and issues with her health because of things that we didn't even realize were causing it. And so now there can be no cross-contamination. There can be none of that. And so my kitchen has very quickly been swapped to a gluten-free kitchen. I have gotten rid of everything. You will see there's still flour here, but I got rid of that once I remembered that it was sitting there right in front of me. And we are getting everything out that has gluten, because there is even a problem with if I bake regular gluten-filled cookies on the same cookie sheet as I then make her gluten-free cookies, she cannot eat them, and it is very detrimental to her health. I'm also testing out a gluten-free diet for myself in the midst of all this and kind of watching how my body reacts to it. And I'm mostly doing it to try and develop some recipes for her and really figure this out where she has good food that she can eat, because she no longer can eat gluten-free at a restaurant unless she knows they are doing everything to prevent cross-contamination. And we don't really have restaurants directly in our area that do that. There's one or two in a couple towns over, but not a lot around us. I'm taking this time to get some recipes that we can do and to be able to share food with her, because now it's not a matter of can she have it at all. So I can never share food with either of my parents unless my kitchen is fully gluten-free. So that's the main reason it started. And then I've since been watching my own reactions to some of the food. May eventually get tested for celiac. It is hereditary. So she's been told it is hereditary. It is genetic. And we have family members that have passed away from all of the closely related diseases that celiac can cause. A lot of our family members have passed away at young ages because of those. And so it's kind of one of those things that I am really going to have to watch. So just a warning here, from now on, pretty much everything you're going to see is gluten-free. If that's not your style, I'm sorry, but this is the life I'm living now for the time being. And I'm actually really excited about it because I am going to be able to share my food with her. And I could make her gluten-free stuff before, but it wasn't really a priority as much. I could do both. And so now it's we got to figure this out. We're all doing it. There's no other options. So I don't know. It's kind of exciting at the same time. And it's exciting to see if some of the issues that I have will go away with this diet. Because if so, I'm sold. And I've already made some pretty good things that you couldn't even tell were not gluten-free. So I started with those cookies. I'm not sharing that recipe yet because I don't feel that I have it down. They were okay. They were good. We ate them up. I've made them multiple times, but I've been testing different amounts of flour and things like that. So if you're gluten-free though, please stick around, because I plan to figure out bread, cookies, cakes, whatever it is, you name it. I am planning to figure it out. My own flour blend I'm hoping to figure out. So stick around if you are, and if you're not, I'm sorry, but a lot of the recipes I'm converting from old recipes. So there is still that for you. We have a few old recipes that are made from regular flour. Now, I have rambled through my gluten-free rant, but I changed out our bedding. I added some vintage pillowcases and some new sheets, and nothing screams cozy rainy day like fresh bedding. one of the tips for gluten-free, I learned this since I've been doing this. My mom has been gluten-free for quite a while, but doing more research since we are all converting over to gluten-free now, I've been doing a lot of research. And so one of the tips is to really let anything that you make soak really well, because the gluten-free flours require a lot more liquid and more time for it to absorb the liquid, and they will absorb more liquid than a traditional flour. And just think about it like rice. This is a rice flour that I'm using. It has some other things, sorghum flour, potato starch, tapioca starch, things like that, but it's mostly rice. And so rice soaks up a lot of water. And so I let these sit in the refrigerator all day long. I made those earlier this morning, let them sit in the fridge to soak up, and I am baking them up now while I make some supper. For supper, I am making breakfast. And I just said we don't have elaborate meals for supper, but this was actually a quick one because I didn't have any meat thawed except for some bacon and very limited time. And so I'm just whipping up some buttermilk pancakes. I'm using the same 1-for-1 baking flour, and I'm just doing my old recipe. So I am doing roughly a cup of flour, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, and I want to say a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then a tablespoon of sugar, an egg, and enough buttermilk to get it kind of a runny batter. I like a more runny pancake batter as opposed to a thicker one, and I believe this was about a cup of buttermilk with a gluten-free flour. I'm also making my own pancake syrup. I do this a lot, actually. I did a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a 1/2 cup of white. I did organic granulated cane sugar, and about 1/2 cup to a cup of water. I just eyeballed it, and then a tablespoon of butter. You can also change out the butter for maple syrup, and then just cook that down until it is a syrup. I'm adding the eggs to the pan of bacon fat to cook them up. And then for the pancakes, you also have to let your batter sit. Now, I didn't put it in the fridge or anything. I just let it sit for a little while before I cooked them up. Get your skillet really, really nice and hot with very little fat on it. And then pour about a 1/4 cup into each spot for each pancake and let them cook until they start to bubble on the top. Pairing that with some strawberries, a couple pieces of bacon, and I did not have eggs this night, but my family did, for a quick and easy supper. Now, rain doesn't stop this little girl and her daddy. They had to go out and practice riding her bike, even though it was wet and muddy. And of course, we took a little tumble here, and Daddy had to clean her up and get her right back on her bike.